I like to be moving around. I'm not a static person. So, my name's Patrick Richard. I'm from Lafayette, Indiana. I am a residential and commercial contractor based out of Lafayette, Indiana, and I do work in Lafayette and Indianapolis. And I am past president of the Indiana Builders Association 2018. I'm actually a third generation builder by trade and via business as well. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do since I can remember. Never ever had any other desire to do anything else. So I truly do have a passion and love what I do, and I'm glad to see a lot of young people here too that enjoy the same passion and want to get into the trades and to be a builder. I appreciate all of you and thank you for your time. I currently I have two companies, Spire Group and Adis Home. Spire Group is my commercial company. Adis is the custom home builder, and we do 5 to 7 average for houses a year, and typically 1.5 to 2.5, roughly an average. This last year's probably 1.8 million is the cost of the home. In my community, Tippecanoe County, Purdue, that's a pretty substantial home for our market. You head down to the north side of Indianapolis, and it changes a little bit. But the overall, my experiences have been good. I thought all of you did a great job, and I understand after talking to a few of you, you came into it. Maybe it was a little vague as to how you were to proceed or what you did, and you had to follow some guidelines. So I understand you did that, and you did it well. I'm more for you asking me questions, and I will answer anything that you want. I can tell you about my experiences, or talk about whatever. Bring it.
We'll open up the questions, and we'll bring the next judge up. So, any general questions about the competition?
Right here. Yes, sir. I like, I'm more of a Zionsville guy, so Holiday Farms. I think you guys, there's a few of those, because that's the area I like the most. I think I told one group, and I should have told all of you, I think you all should define for yourself and your teams, if you're going to do it again next year, is define what custom means to you. A lot of times, custom, I tell my clients that it can be a dirty word sometimes because people automatically assume custom is really expensive, right? It's not necessarily true. Custom for me is someone wants a builder, a person who wants to commit a serious amount of time to this person's dream. Because if it's their third or fourth or final home, it's building a future for their family, they want someone that's going to give them all of the time that they request, to give them what they want and to be honest about what they can't have. So we start from a blank sheet of paper all of the time. We don't competitively bid anything. So folks come to us with a lot already, generally, 99%, 98% of the time. They tell us what they want. We ask them how much they have to spend or they would like the home to cost. There's generally on the front end a very big gap between the two until you start talking through the things that they want, how they want it, how do they live in the house, what kind of products do you think you see yourself using, do you have any ideas at all? They generally do, they just don't know what they cost. So really, on the design side of it, we're interviewing people as we start the process before we ever get to the place where we're pricing any home for them. So that's what custom means for me. We did a home last year that was $600,000, but it was custom. I mean, these people had very specific needs and wants in the house. They were a retired couple, and that's what they wanted to spend. We gave them everything they wanted. It doesn't have to be a $2 million house to be a custom home. That's what custom means to me.
Do you ever build spec custom homes?
No, I have not built a spec house since probably 2005. Was the last time that I did. And I overbuilt it. Yes, sir.
What is your process with HOAs? How do you handle kind of their issues?
The process with what?
Homeowners associations.
Process with homeowner associations, he's asking. So let me make sure I understand the question correctly. How we deal with them as we're building the home? Yeah, okay, so whenever someone comes to us, they've got the lot. The first question we ask, the restrictions, the covenants, we need to see it, please, so we understand what it is we have to be required to finish the house on the outside, size, et cetera. Once we get into the preliminary design phase, and we've got just and I'm just going to call it a sketch because it's what it is. I mean, they're computer drafted. However, it's enough for someone to get an idea of what the floor plan is and what the exterior looks like. We take it to the homeowners association then for them to vet it for us to make sure it's meeting all the requirements that they would like to make sure the home has. Is that what you were asking? Okay. Anyone? Anyone?
Yeah, just introduce maybe some general feedback.
Yeah. Well, what an experience it is to be with you guys. I just think I started in construction 48 years ago, and I am the son of a Stanford graduate who was a professor and a dean. My grandfather was an engineer, and my great-grandfather was a builder up in the Chicago area. So the last 23 years, I have been in construction consulting. I've had my custom home building business, but I've also been helping train up the next generation of builders. So about 25% of the clients that we work with go on to go from us working with them and building their home with them to actually building homes professionally for themselves. So that's what we've done. And I would say that have the courage that you all have had to prepare for this and to stand in front of a group of judges like this, knowing what you don't know and facing those that have many years of experience. That's an incredible job on all of your part. So that's going to set you aside from many, many people that are in this industry. So I've told some of you, one of my first things I did when I started my business was to join the Builders Association. So, and almost immediately to get involved with the educational program that they have and be a committee member, be a committee chairman, and work towards being a leader in your community and of the association. So most of these guys here all have been presidents of the HBA or the state. So I see that in a lot of you guys here today too. Not enough women here today, I will tell you. It was nice to see women, and this industry is ripe for more women builders. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to see that. It's not exclusive just to men. So good job. Good job to show up. And I think Carly was another gal I picked on. There she is. Yes. Nice job. Civil engineer. Nice job. Any questions for any of you? Yes.
So you said you currently spend most of your time in consulting.
I'm sorry?
You currently spend most of your time now in consulting, right?
And building, yes.
How is that? Because it's one thing to run your own company, but then it's also another thing to be able to go in and advise. I'm just curious.
Yeah. That's a good question. Consulting, generally, the big difference is we give options to our customers. In building, we give decisions. So that would be one way to do that. One analogy that we would use is that we're the little guy in the boat sitting in the scull, and the rowing team is paddling like crazy, and we're out there directing, go left and go right, go left. But we're not paddling. A builder paddles. Yeah. Yes, sir. Luca, right? Chatham Hills is great. Someone was building on Spring Pines. I'm building a house for my brother, $2 million home right across from the Purdue team. Is the Purdue team here? Yep. So very familiar with that neighborhood in Grassy Branch. But anywhere in Westfield is a good place to be. Matter of fact, there's so many that market analysis reports that you did, it got me so excited about, I thought, if I didn't already live there, I would definitely want to move there. And, but one of the pictures of the Oak Park lot, I think, was, you could see where I live on the top part of that map. So it's a wonderful neighborhood to be in. So you're not going to go wrong in Westfield. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Is that Anthony? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Overall, what do you think is like an area in general that we all could improve on?
What did you?
What's like the biggest general thing that like stands out to you that you think we could all improve on?
Well, you all seem green. I would say that. Yeah, but that's to be expected. And but you came with confidence. I think one of the teams was, if you don't know the answer, just say you don't know the answer. And but some tried to bluff their way through that, and it shows big time. So I would avoid doing that in the future. But you know, you're not gonna be green forever. So just continue to do what you're doing, to get educated, to have, NAHB has so many good credentials that each of you could get, the universal design, the green building. Get started now, because to be a master remodeler, you need like 10 or 20 years, and to be a master builder, it's 10 years once you start. So you want to have those credentials. We live in a world of credentials. So don't be the one in a room in a meeting that has no credentials. You want to be the most credentials that doesn't ever talk that much unless asked to talk. So take advantage of what NAHB offers and get LEED certified. I would definitely say to be able to do that. Become a building scientist. You want to, if you love this industry, then show it. You got to know everything about it. You know, if you don't have your own blower door equipment, what the heck are you doing talking about ACH then? You need to know about wall assemblies. You need to know about the science behind the industry that you're in. Yes?
Last year caught a lot of builders by surprise, both by the supply chain issues and the inflation. What are the best strategies that you're seeing to
Jay, where are you from? Utah. Okay, Utah. Well, someone mentioned that. I think it was a Brigham Young team. Yeah, that had flexibility to, if you couldn't get the material, then have an option to go back and fall onto. But you've got to be quick on your feet. I think a lot of us were frozen with, well, we can't get TJIs, or we can't get garage doors for 24 weeks. So you just adapt to that. You know, it's not the first time we've had problems. We've had trouble with copper. We've had trouble with, bin allocation on drywall years ago. And right now, it's just, you've got to be, that's part of the game.
when you're doing a contract and you don't know what's going on 4 or 5 months down the road, are you putting some contingencies there in your price, or are you doing a clause with the customer? How do you?
Definitely, it's a contract thing. So our association, actually, probably in the late 80s, our parliamentarian attorney on staff actually had language that we put into all of any member of the HBA. We were able to put that language in there so that if lumber did overrun, that we were covered for that, because we all got burned way too much. So I think putting that in that contract would be good. I'm not a fan of allowances. I think it shows, maybe a lack of attentiveness to our profession. So, thank you very much.
My name's Dan Wolf. My company completed about 55 homes last year. About a third of those were semi-custom homes. Somebody asked about specs. The majority of those were spec homes. I think that was great to see everyone out. This is really a great step in getting experience. I wasn't afforded this opportunity. A lot of lessons learned the hard way, and hopefully we're teaching some or giving some lessons today that that don't cost you money and you can learn, and someday in real life you'll look back on it. I know this custom builder program's a new program this year, so hopefully there's some more programs to come. Personally, it was great for me as a resident of Westfield, so it was exciting to see each of your homes and knowing, being able to immerse myself actually in knowing the sites immensely, having built in the same communities. It was a great experience for me. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about what process you would follow in identifying where you're going to build your next spec? What drives your decision making?
Sure. Question was what processes would I follow in building my next spec? Our company, most of the homes we build in neighborhoods we develop. That way we can control the competition. So we would build, most of our specs would be built in neighborhoods that we've developed. So, but specifically though, Chatham Hills is a good location, but you're going to be subject to more competition. Now, of course, the community I've developed doesn't have a golf course and a $100,000 swimming or 100,000 square foot clubhouse with swimming pools, so it's certainly a different clientele as well. So there's different markets that you want to target and know the pros and cons of that. Yes, sir. So the question was, what's the price point, the difference in price point from semi-custom to custom? So it's kind of like what Pat said earlier, is defining custom. For us, defining semi-custom, it's more of an operations, pre-designed plans, and streamlining the process. So it's hard to differentiate what the price point difference. It's more of an operations and less headaches because the options are more limited. So I don't know that there's a defined number. Frankly, Bat could build a semi-custom, or I'm sorry, a full custom home at $600,000, and I've built $800 to $1 million semi-custom homes as well. So it's not really as simple as putting a dollar number on it. It's what the customer wants to put in it, what you allow them to put in it too. Yes, ma'am. Sure. The question was, when designing a spec home, how we decide what trends to follow. Part of that's going to be based on our immediate past experience on what our clientele and our customers are seeing. Part of it will be also based on our interior design professionals' input, and some of it might be what the guy next door is building. Yes, sir, in the back. Sure. The question was, since we develop our own neighborhoods, if we have our own framing companies and do direct labor on that. We don't. We subcontract out every task, which is historically in our region the norm, although we've seen some interesting things occur where some builders are buying labor companies. So who knows if the market's changing. But the problem with having your own direct labor on a framing company, for example, is, say it's a 6-man crew. First of all, you are responsible for making sure they're productive and framing it in a time frame that is consistent with what you would pay a subcontract labor. And secondly, you have to have the houses in front of them to keep them busy, not too little, not too many. So I think for most builders, certainly in our market, we find it more advantageous, easier to manage to have subcontract labor. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
What is something sustainable that we can incorporate in houses that provide sustainability, but at the same time is practical? You know, there's a lot of stuff that's sustainable, but at times it costs a ton, or you have to sacrifice other things. Is there something that you like to use?
Well, that's a great question. Hopefully somebody's going to have a better answer than I do. Because I think you recognize that, sustainable is a flashy word, but at the end of the day, the latest 48-inch gas cooktop with a very expensive range, sometimes, or range and hood, wins out over the rain barrel, the gray water system. And unfortunately, so many of the common sustainable items that we saw even in your presentations, honestly, they just don't make the cut list. They're just not financially practical, or the client chooses to get more eye candy, honestly. Sure, I'll let Guy comment.
So, Levi, one of the best things you could do on that is kind of saying, like, what makes a car run? What part of it makes the car run best? Well, there's so many things to answer that. So what makes the house the best sustainability? Look at the requirements on the fortified home. Fortified is a requirement that the insurance industry has, and it goes from the number of nails you put in your shingles to the amount of rebar to where you place shear walls. So fortified standard is what you should look at, because that is far superior than as good as LEED is, and NAHB green. The fortified is that standard that will help you with that answer.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How long does the permitting process in total take in Westfield? Because we're kind of like surprised by that.
Sure, that's a great question. So in Indiana in general, we live, I'm fortunate enough to be in some builder peer groups, so I get input from builders around the country. And that is one thing that we're very fortunate that, well, we think we're heavily regulated. We're not regulated as much as, say, the West Coast and even the East Coast. We don't, this is a little bit broader in your question, but for example, we don't require engineered plans for the house. They don't have to be stamped by an architect. A lot of regions in the country, you have to have an architect stamp and design the house. I used to design our houses. I don't anymore, but I used to before CAD came along, and I drew them by hand and went to the blueprint shop, if anybody knows what a blueprint is. So then the permitting, once the plans are done and you submit them for a permit, literally in Westfield, it's not unusual to get a permit back in a few days, even in the busy market. 3 weeks is probably, in the areas I build in the north side of Indianapolis, 3 weeks is the worst that it ever takes. One municipality, somebody talked about Zionsville, it's in their ordinance. They have 10 days on a residential permit, so we're very fortunate. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I know in a lot of places it's not necessary to have an architect stamp. Do you need an engineer stamp for those plans?
So the question was, do we need an engineered stamp for the plans? And the broad answer is no, as long as we're building to the specific code. Under the residential code, there are details if we're building to that. Now, we can variate or deviate from the code with an engineer's stamp to maybe not put rebar in a basement wall or something, for example. Yes, sir. Yes, when we buy a piece of property, we usually form a new LLC to develop under, and then that LLC sells the lot either to us as the home builder or to, more likely, to a client, and then we'll build their home on that lot that they've purchased from us.
If the client buys a parcel of your land, and can they go with another builder?
Generally, no. There's been, because the whole premise for us to develop lots to control our competition, so I won't say it's never happened, but it's rarely ever happens. That kind of defeats our business plan. So, yes, sir, in the back? Yeah.
Speak on permits. What's a ballpark for how much they can pay for permits? I mean, you've done research, you got our number, but
So the question is, what's the ballpark on the permit? It gets a little skewed. I think most folks did a good job on the actual building permit is between $1,000 and $2,000. But what that doesn't get is you're going to pay, depending on the municipality, and you can find this on most websites, you're going to pay bridge impact, road impact, park impact, sewer impacts, water impact fees, not necessarily all of those, but depending on them. So you're going to pay, when we go to pick up our permit, though, we're paying $6,000 to $8,000 typically, is what I would say. And some of the other guys might be able to comment if it's different, but that's the broad range. The fact of it, about a quarter, that's really your permit. All right, if there's no other questions, I'll hand it off to Tim.
My name's Tim Eckert. I'm at Weber Concrete. A little bit different. I'm not a builder, but I do see I'm out a lot, and I want to thank each and every one of you for participating. You don't know how much we need you more than you need us. Look around. We're all a bunch of gray-haired old men. We need you guys. Everybody in this room can get a job in construction. I talk to high schools. I talk to grade schools. Next Saturday, I'll be talking to a large group at Purdue again, and it's going to be all the ones that are coming into college. So please consider everything that they've told you about credentials. I'm probably not the one to talk about credentials. When Mr. Schwinghammer starts talking, please ask him about his credentials. Our company is a residential foundation contractor. Chatham Hills, we've probably done more than half of all the homes in that community. We do about 1,600 basements a year. We pour over 300,000 yards of concrete. And our company has 350 people in it. We have one person with a college degree. Everybody in this room has more education than everybody in my company. The man I work for dropped out of the 6th grade. He makes more money than anybody else in this room does. That being said, it's a point here is construction can get you anywhere you want to go, and you can take your degree and go anywhere in the world with it. So be aware. This is a viable industry for men, women, all people can go anywhere with this. I would recommend you find out more about scheduling, just due to the fact that I'm involved every day with somebody calling and complaining about our schedule, these guys included. That's why it was so important to me to look at each one of your school's schedules. Get out there and just see. You know, the means scheduling, please, just tear that page out of your book and throw it away. You'll find that you need contingencies on timing, you need contingencies on planning, you need contingencies on your financials, but just go with the flow, be prepared to make a change. We have a grand total of probably 30 different crews, and again, we have over 10,000 houses under warranty, and our next perfect basement will be our first. And that's my comments. So it takes, you know, most of you will be planners, you'll be project managers, you'll be owners, you'll be superintendents, but you won't be swinging a hammer, you won't be finishing drywall, you won't be painting, you know, you won't be doing the land development. You're going to be supervising these people. You're going to be hiring these people. It takes more than 64 vendors, subcontractors, and suppliers to build one residential house. Figuratively speaking, more than 750 people will walk through that front door to work on that house. And you need to be aware of what their job is. Nobody's asking you to do their jobs, but you have to know what their job is, you have to understand their job, and you have to be empathetic to them. The day of yelling at a subcontractor is over. The day of picking up a phone and screaming at a guy and yelling, "Where are you?" It's like, gotta go. And you won't be seeing them again. We've learned that the hard way. We can't even, you just have to be much more aware of today's building techniques. And the idea that you're getting a house built in 5 months at these prices, you'd have to have robots, you know, and they're coming, and the robots are coming. 2 weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas to the World of Concrete. Our company owns our own concrete factories. We also have our own concrete pumps. They are 1 year away from being able to have a concrete truck drive up to the robot. You turn it on. It's a machine as big as this room is square, very simple machine, just big posts, and it can do everything that a man or woman framing a house can do in basically 2 to 3 working days, because it'll work all night long pouring concrete. When we get to that point, your houses may get down to 5 months, but at this point in time, we're not there yet. Any questions? Yes.
You touched on it some, but as a trade partner, what's the most important thing for you, for for superintendents, for project managers to do, relationship-wise or payment schedule? What's most important?
Everybody pays. You know, that's not the issue. It is really openness and communication and telling us when things are ready. We're a bit different. We're first. So our schedules, years ago, we were able to turn a basement in 12 to 14 working days. We're up to 30 days now. So it's a bit of a difference. We're also vertically integrated. So we take it from excavation to backfill with all flat work included, ready to frame when we walk away. That's also my elevator speech. So just being honest, hey, the lot's staked, oh, the silt fence is in place, and we pull an excavator out there and it's not ready. You've just cost us $350 and the money we didn't make on the next job we could have been on. We dig 15 basements a day, and if you are not ready and you get out of rotation and he's ready, I'll see you in about a month. Honesty, just honesty. Any other questions? Yes, sir. 9 months. I mean, there's just no way. All the houses we're doing in Chatham Hills, we do all of the work of AR homes in Indianapolis, and none of them have been done in less than a year. And they even tell us, oh, you know, we'll be out of there in 7 months. No, you won't. So even the best of them, and that is with good weather, a good relationship with all of your subcontractors, and having a great superintendent. Yes, sir.
You talked about your elevator pitch, in terms of the contract relationship, but what's kind of your elevator pitch to these high school students? You know, whereas we live in an industry where it's like higher education, so, you know, is the focus.
We have 3 or 4 different groups of people. I didn't mean to get into this digression. I deal with 3 or 4 different associations. One of them is BY, Build Yourself. These are young people that are from 18 to 30 that have never gotten out of high school, that have gone out into the real world and failed, have been in prison, and now they got to support a couple of kids or a family. We also deal with a lot of high school boys and girls that are never going to make it into college. You know, a 2-year trade school might be a good thing for them, but they don't have the background, they don't have the support of their families, they don't have the money to go to college. And so it is that I have 7 estimators that work for me, range in age from 31 to maybe 60. None of them make less than $100,000. They started out in the field. We promote from within as much as we can. All of our truck drivers, we have 24 slinger trucks, we have 50 concrete trucks. We pay by the hour and by the load. We have numerous men in their early 30s making over $100,000. We have a pump truck. We have 6 pump trucks. That's what you want to do for a job. It's horribly dirty, it's very dangerous, but these guys can knock down $100 an hour. And they have nothing more than a CDLB. So my elevator pitch is that they can support themselves. All of my men and women can buy a new car, can buy a new truck, can have a family, can put their kids into a good private school or a good public school somewhere, support them, their family, support their community, and make a living. You know, where I live, my zip code is 46074. Beside me is a doctor, behind me is an engineer, 2 streets over I've got probably 2 doctors. You know, I'm the concrete guy. You know, I don't know exactly what their opinion is, but I can afford my house. Thank you all for being here today. Well, there's one more person. There's one more person. And this is the one I want you to ask him about his credentials.
Thank you, Tim. They were applauding for you, not because it was over. My name is Paul Schwinghammer. Yes, that actually is my last name. My company will be 30 years old next month, and we are a little bit different builder than what some of these gentlemen up here are. Our business model is that we build what we call custom single-family homes on your lot in about 85 of the 92 counties throughout Indiana. 98% of the homes we build are pre-sold. We build very few specs, only a handful a year. And that's always been our business model. And quite frankly, that's what got us to sustain the housing crash of 2008, is we weren't sitting on debt, we weren't sitting on lots, we weren't sitting on specs that weren't completed or sold or paid for. So that's a little bit different than what some of these other guys, but that's okay. We need all kinds of people in this industry to do different things. If everybody did the same thing for their business, then all you got is a bunch of people doing the same thing, and there's no differentiation, which is the reason why we started the company, and the business model that we set out to do was a little bit different than others were doing. Because it was hard to find a builder that would build a custom house, and I'm kind of like Pat. Custom is in the eye of the beholder. To us, a custom means you can take a plan and change it to the way you want it, whether it's a stock plan out of a home magazine or one of our own standard plans. If you want to move a wall, you want to add a screen porch, you want to add a basement, a bonus room, a 3-car garage, to us, that's customizing that home. And it was hard to find builders that would do that in remote areas of Indiana because lots of builders do what some of these guys do, which is build in subdivisions like Chatham Hills. They build high-end custom homes. That's not our business model. Frankly, if customers came to us with most of these homes that were presented today, I would probably turn them down because we don't like building $1 million plus homes because they're very time-intensive. They take a lot of skill in management and a lot of labor skill that, frankly, that's not what we do. We build about 75 to 80 $300,000 to $500,000 homes a year, and that works for us, okay? That may not work for everybody. So I would say if you get into the business, find out why you want to get into the business. What do you want to do to differentiate yourself from every other builder in your town? Just thinking you're going to go out there and beat them on price is not a good way to do business. You don't want to be the low guy on the street. You don't necessarily want to be the high guy on the street, but you have to be able to sell yourself as to why you're better than someone else. Unfortunately, a lot of the buying public still today thinks of a home as a commodity. They come to us and say, and every builder gets this question, how much does a home cost per square foot? And that question is impossible to answer because the homes that you were presented today were pushing $300 a square foot, but yet other homes can cost $125 per square foot. That's all going to depend on the level of finish, the size of the house. The bigger the house, a lot of times the less it is per square foot because of the economies of scale. But it's the level of finishes. Is it stone? Is it brick? Is it vinyl siding? Does it have a basement? Does it have a 3-car garage, et cetera? So to think you're going to compete solely on price is probably not a good way to set up a business model. So just be aware, be cognizant of why you want to get into the business and what you think you can do differently. And it might just be simply in design. Maybe you want to specialize in a certain type of home design, and that's fine. One thing I didn't hear a lot of today, or really any of, and somebody touched on it, I think it was Guy touched on it, was universal design. Wasn't, I don't believe, even mentioned, or accessibility. And what we mean by that is, it's good to design a home that has certain features in it that can sustain the people in the house for as long as possible. And universal design is different than accessibility, whereas accessibility typically means you're designing the home for someone that may be physically impaired some way, may even be in a wheelchair. Okay, so you have, and you've seen the commercials on TV that they build handicap homes where the range is lower and the cabinets are lower and automatic doors and things like that. That's more accessible design. Universal design is taking a thought into the house, such as, let's make my doors at least 32 inches wide. So a wheelchair at some point in time can get through it. It doesn't have to be 36, but at least 32 inches wide. So at some point in time, if this couple decides to stay in the house a long time, and maybe they just have an accident and they need to be in a wheelchair or a walker for a short time, they're not restricted. So it's things like that: wider hallways, walk-in closets, space for maybe a future elevator, whether or not you rough in for it or not, at least thinking about can you stack your closets to where if an elevator ever needs to be put in, is it easy to do as opposed to a major remodel project down the road. He mentioned my credentials. I'm president of the Indiana Builders Association for 2022 this year. Pat was in 2018, as he mentioned. I'm also an instructor for the Indiana Builders Association in accessible, what we call certified aging in place, and also green building, universal design, and things like that. I've been teaching courses for a number of years for them, and I really enjoy doing that. I've been doing it on Zoom the last couple of years. Be glad to get back into the live classroom coming up at the end of this month in Indianapolis for CAP certifications. So, and I agree on everybody on the schedules. Schedules are out of control over the past year. I mean, we're losing time like crazy on all these jobs. It's really hard because of the short constraints of labor, as well as the supply chain issues we've been having. And some comments were made today, we order stuff in advance. We do. We order garage doors, windows, cabinets well before we even start the house, or we're just going to have a house sitting. And even with that, I mean, it's still taking, for us, on our smaller houses, which are, 2,500, 3,000 square feet, we'll say, 6, 8, 10 months to get these homes built, even with or without a basement sometimes. And it just, you've got to get your customers' expectations in line up front. And that's challenging. Everybody wants in their house fast, but a lot of times they don't realize how long it's really going to take. So anyway, any questions for me? One question. I spoke too long. Sorry. Yes. Right. That's a great question. He asked how we work it out with our sub-base that we build all over the state. We have construction managers that live in various parts of the states, and some of our contractors will travel statewide. A floor covering company or drywall, we own our own insulation company, so that's no problem. But in local markets, we have excavators, we have mason, we have concrete layers, people like that in those local markets. So it's a combination of some do it statewide and in other pockets around the state. Subs will usually travel, 25, 30 miles. A lot of subs don't like to drive 3 hours. Some will, but most don't. Okay, that was the one question, so thank you.
Great. Thank you, students. Just want to echo the judges and commend you for participating in this competition. And thank you, judges, for the time you spent giving them feedback and going over their packets today. Thank you so much, guys, for coming in.